One of our clients who uses both our Done For You Dog Training Business website as well as our Google Ads management service, which you can learn more about at dogtrainertoolbox.com. He sent me a question a couple days ago, and he said, Here's the situation. Here's the problem I'm having. I need some advice." He says, "When people click on the ad and they end up on the website and they pick up the phone and call, if we're there to answer the phone, we're selling between 70 to 80% of those people, which is phenomenal, which is a huge success. But the problem is that there's only two of them. There's the dog training business owner and his lead trainer. And when they're both out in the field working with clients and the phone rings, they can't answer the phone. So he wants to know what he should do. And he thought maybe it might be a good idea to put one of those like Calendly scheduler things so that people can go to the website. Instead of calling, they can just schedule their own consultation. And if I thought that was a good idea, stick with me. I'm going to tell you my thoughts. If I have a problem with my dog, let's think about this for a minute. Stick with me. If I have a problem with my dog and I need a solution stat, I don't want to go on some website that doesn't have a phone number and fill out some consultation thing, some cockamamie thing that's supposed to schedule a time and a date and tell me where I'm supposed to be without talking to a red blooded human. That's just me. No, I take that back. It's probably not me. It's probably most of the people in my generation, probably most of the people in my parents' generation, and it's probably most of the people in the generation that came after me, which is a huge section of your market. People want to reach out and connect with other people. The best way to do that is in person. The second best way to do that is on the phone. So the short answer is you need to hire somebody to answer your phone. The problem that many of you have is that you're small businesses and you can't afford to hire a full-time person to sit in an office and answer your phone. I mean, that should be a goal because you can actually have that person start doing some telephone sales if you do that. But even if you don't do that, here's the answer. You hire a virtual secretary. Now, I personally tested a number of these services like CallRuby. I haven't had good results with them because what happens is they have basically a script and they forward the call. The call takes a long time to forward to a different operator depending on who's in their pool of operators that are working that day. It's always a different person, which means you've always got somebody reading your script, your phone script cold. Okay. And it's very, very impersonal. And a lot of times you get people that, let's be honest, aren't very good. So what's the solution? In my opinion, the solution is one of two things that you can do. You can either, number one, run ads on Facebook Marketplace or on Craigslist to find somebody like a stay-at-home mom, or not to be sexist, don't get excited, maybe a stay-at-home dad, maybe a stay-at-home dad. And basically you call them and you interview them and you set it up so that during certain hours, calls are forwarded to that person. And then that person learns your script. That person learns exactly what you want them to say, how to handle the call. And that person gets to practice again and again and again. And guess what happens? After a couple of weeks, they start to get really good at it. If you get somebody reliable, you can get somebody for very, very cheap, like typically about $300 a month. And then you usually want to cut them in on, basically a small percentage of anybody that they schedule or anybody that you end up signing so that it sweetens the deal for them, so that it makes it so that they're really motivated. And I think that's important. I think it's important to set things up with the people that you work with so that it's a win-win solution. So the better that you do, the better they do too. And in my experience, that kind of keeps people motivated. Anyways, that's the way that I would do it is run an ad, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace for somebody local, somebody that doesn't want a full-time job, somebody that wants to stay at home with the kids. Somebody wants to run errands and stuff during the day, but can answer the phone for you. The second option I haven't done. I'm really curious to test it, but I know this guy. His name escapes me right now. He's super impressive. 31 years old. He manages over $51 million. He owns over $51 million of self-storage facilities, him and his partner. And basically one of the ways that they've been able to really cut costs is that they hire people overseas, specifically in the Philippines. I think he's also testing Colombia and maybe a couple other markets too. But if you go to onlinejobs.ph, you can see that's basically a job board for people in the Philippines. And many of these people honestly speak very, very good English. In fact, that's why a lot of these companies outsource their customer service to the Philippines, because you can get them at the rate for somebody to work in the Philippines is much, much less. This fellow with the self-storage facilities was saying that he typically pays $600 a month for somebody to work basically a 40-hour week, answering phones and doing other tasks that he needs, scheduling and so on and so forth. Now, before you get all upset that doing that is exploiting people overseas, if you don't like it, you know what? Don't do it. But here's the way I look at it: the minimum wage in a place like the Philippines, I think, is like $300. So if you're paying double minimum wage, because let's face it, if you didn't have that option, they wouldn't have the job, and you wouldn't have an employee because you know you're not going to pay $20 an hour for somebody to sit. Economics of it, you can't make it work. So in my mind, it's a win-win. You get somebody to answer your phones. They get a really good paying in their economy, a good paying job. Now, we could turn it around. If that bothers you, we could say, well, if I'm an American and I get paid $50 an hour, well, that's not as much as I get paid if I worked in Singapore or maybe if I worked in Switzerland. So, let's try and leave politics out of it and just think with your business thinking cap. You're creating a win-win situation for both parties. Again, if that bothers you, don't do it. Hire somebody locally, hire a stay-at-home mom, who, when they break down the number of hours that they're actually working, because remember, they're only actually working when they answer the phone. And the times when they're not answering the phone, they're at home, doing whatever they want to do. Again, you're creating a win-win situation, but you need to do that. You need to do that because every successful business, pretty much every successful business, every successful small business that I've ever known of has somebody who answers the phone when somebody calls because they need their service. Those are my thoughts. Yeah, I'm a little bit hangry. Take it for what it's worth. Hey, if you need to grow your dog training business, check out dogtrainertoolbox.com. We've got everything you need to get from where you are to where you've always dreamed of being with your dog training business. Take care, guys.